Is well on its way in the Mara Triangle. Shall we play a game of Let's Keep Dry? This is Safari Live. Oh, my bad. That's awkward. Hello everybody. I thought we were still doing that. I thought that was just for a TV show that we weren't doing this Safari Live. But anyways, welcome everybody to the Sunset Safari. There's a blooper for you. My name is Taylor and on camera with me is Manu. I don't even know if I pulled a face. Normally I pull a face towards the end, but maybe today I behaved. Anyways, we're driving around out and about and we are going to be playing a game called Let's Keep Dry because there's rain up in front of us down towards the south and then also coming in from the northeast. So we're going to try and stay somewhere in the middle. For those of you who have just joined us for the first time, a big welcome to all of you. You can chat to us this afternoon. You can hashtag Safari Live or you can talk to us via the YouTube chat. I'm still having a good chuckle. But anyways, right. Manu and I have a plan this afternoon and that's why we're just going to keep driving because there's very little around this section of the triangle at the moment. Not even an elephant to show you, which is unusual because there's always elephants. We are going to go into the river road. The other day, about 2 days ago, we spotted some crowned cranes. There was one that was sitting down and this, I thought maybe it was just resting, and then she stood up and she was sitting on a nest. So that's where we're going to go because I've never seen a crowned crane nest before or their eggs or anything. So I'd like to go and have a look at that. And wonderful. I believe a whole bunch of you are saying happy cat day. Hopefully we're going to be able to find some cats. I think what we will do is we'll go have a look there. We won't go all the way down to the main crossing points. I think once we've viewed the crowned crane, we'll then hug the Mara River, do a quick trip around the marsh because it's quite nice down there. Maybe we find some lions in that area, or our fallback lions will be the Angama pride then. I'm not sure where they were. We have been following them for the past few days, but I haven't been out since yesterday morning, so I have no idea where the cats are, so that's going to be quite fun searching around. Now it's not just me out here in the Mara this afternoon. Ralph is also going to be driving around, so let's jump on board with him.
Yes everybody, and welcome to the second part of the Masai Mara game drive out here in Kenya. We're looking at a lovely elephant here just on the fringes of the forest, heading up towards the escarpment. What a setting it is. It's building for rain once again. We had lovely showers yesterday afternoon. My name is Ralph Kirsten and this is Safari Live. Please join us on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and use the YouTube live chat to interact with us, ask us questions, throw us your comments and join us on this afternoon's game drive. We're out nice and early and as I've said, it's quite hot, but it's got that feeling of thunder showers once again. Yesterday afternoon, just after we finished the drive, it really poured down and made us very wet, but it's dried up again this afternoon and it's lovely light now, and I'm going to be heading up towards the marshes as well, similar to what Taylor is doing, but in a completely different direction, starting off around the Olololo gate, and we'll see if we can maybe pick up on some of the prides in the area. The marsh breakaway pride I know is in the region. I did see them when I was with Taylor, so maybe we'll catch up with them again as a lovely herd of elephants makes its way along the edges of the forest, just at the base of the escarpment there. So yes folks, I'm going to start up. We're going to head off and see as far as we can get to start off. Lily Braby making a comment that you always think elephants have got such small eyes in comparison to their body. Well, yes, you're quite right. In comparison to their body, they are relatively small, but they're actually quite big in terms of the size of an eye. It just makes it look small because of how big their body is. But it's also quite interesting to note that elephants' eyesight is very similar to that of humans. So what we can see, or how far we can see, and the detail that we can see is actually quite similar to that of elephants. So it's quite good to note that. But definitely their smell being probably their strongest sense. So I wouldn't say that their eyes is their best sense at all. I think they use their smell to a much bigger degree. So, and what a lovely scene we have now with the light coming through. Patchy with the clouds, just putting a little bit of shadow over the plains. And it's a lovely savanna setting. Very beautiful. The birds are still calling. They went quiet last evening as that thunderstorm approached, almost like they knew. So yes, we do have quite a lot more bigger distances that we need to cover. Okay, so we have a lot bigger distances that we need to cover here in the Mara, which is quite a big difference in comparison to that of Djuma in the Kruger Park. And while I say that, and I continue to see what we can find here, let's go across to Taylor and see what she has been able to find.
Absolutely nothing. So that's why we're still just heading on down the road towards the marshy areas, and hopefully we're going to find those crowned cranes. Well, that's the idea anyways. We might do a bit of birding this afternoon, I think. Let's not put all our eggs in one basket and just try and find lions. Maybe we will take it a bit easy. I also wouldn't mind looking at a couple of butterflies. So there's some very pretty ones around at the moment that we've been having a look at. So maybe we'll put Manu's skills to a test. He's always up for a challenge. And we'll see if we can have a look at some butterflies as well. But when I see a large gathering of them, we'll stop and have a look. So I'm just a little bit worried about this thunderstorm, like what Ralph was saying. It's actually coming in from the north, from the east as well, from the south. And the problem is that once it joins, it's a nightmare. It's still looking okay down there to the west, but it's moving in that direction, so we probably won't go down to the escarpment. And then there's this next big part just to the east. You can see the clouds starting to develop, and it's raining. It will be raining on the other side of the Mara River and the Masai Mara National Reserve. And they're going to join, which is going to be so much fun. As long as we don't have any lightning, I'll be quite happy with that. It's not fun being out in the open when there's lots and lots of lightning. It's interesting though. I mean, we haven't even seen one impala yet. I wonder if they all know that there's a big storm on its way and they've already gone to take some shelter. Which they don't normally do. I mean, the animals out here are so used to the rain, they're quite happy just to sit out in the open and just take it. Hang on, I see a bird. I see some life out here. Who we got? Oh, it's one of my favorite birds. It's a white. Is it a white-browed cuckoo? It is a white-browed cuckoo with a kill! We've hit the jackpot, everybody. Isn't that incredible? They're such lovely birds, and we always see them just before and after the rain. It looks like it's eating a grasshopper of sorts. When I've gone for the yard walk over the last few days and hike, we've actually been seeing lots and lots of grasshoppers, and they're quite pretty. I think I've said to you a few times I'm going to try and get a picture of one, or not a picture, put one on screen, because when they leap into the air, they've got the most amazing sort of flash coloration. in between their legs. Some of them purple, some more of a blue color, and then of course typical reds, yellows, and oranges. But that made a tasty snack for that white-browed cuckoo. I wonder if it's going to give us a call. No, it's looking for its next meal now. I love the way these birds hunt. I keep saying to you that I want them. I can't wait for them to catch something quite big. Let me go a bit closer. Sorry, Faith, you cannot please have that question today. Faith is directing, in case you're wondering who is Faith. Oh, it wasn't. It was a comment. Ah, lovely, Linda. Linda, you said it's amazing. It is. I love these birds so much. Let's see where it's gone. It's in here somewhere. Let's see if this one is a shy cuckoo. Look at it. You can actually just see its tail sticking out. It's right in the bottom. There we go. That straight center. You've got it. It's very difficult to see, but it is actually in there. And just every now and then I could see its tail moving. So this is not. There you go. You can see you just see it on the top right of your screen. There you go. Hopping around in there. That's its tail. So I wonder what it's found now. It would be a good spot. I'm sure there's a large gathering of insects around there, anywhere where there's grass. Or maybe it's looking for lizards or snakes and other things. They eat a variety of different things. Now, I have spotted a big elephant and some buffalo up ahead. Hallelujah. I was worried for a minute that it was going to be one of those quiet afternoons. Here's a butterfly. I don't know if you can get Manu. That's too tricky. It's so hard, but it's gone now. Well done, though. That was quick practice. That was a practice round. Hey, Manu. I properly threw Manu under the bus there. Sorry. Now, Knit Piano, you're wondering what is my favorite butterfly? What is my favorite butterfly? I have to think about this one. I like the sulfur tips. The common sulfur tips, they're quite pretty. We'll see if we can find some. There's plenty of them flying around at the moment. Green-banded swallowtail, that's quite a beautiful butterfly. The diadems are lovely. They're also aunts. Who doesn't love an African monarch? There's one, I need to get a list of butterflies. Maybe you can help me. Can you guys help me? Because I've tried searching, but I was searching on my phone one day, so I suppose that doesn't help me. I need to be looking on my computer, but I'm never on my computer. So maybe you can help me. Can someone try and find a list of butterflies for the Masai Mara or the Mara Triangle or just in this vicinity? And then if you do find it, you can hashtag Safari Live. And then what will happen is you can tag me in it and then I'll have a look. Because there's one butterfly that I've forgotten the name of that's really pretty that I saw when I was in the butterfly park when I was on holiday. But I don't know what it was. But these are not butterflies, of course, even though they're flapping their ears like they're going to take off. Is a buffalo. Two Duggar boys just resting in this marshy area, courtesy of all the rain. And I'm sure they're having a grand old time too, just wallowing about. Lots of insects around though, and that's to be expected with all the rain that we have been having. I would hate to know what insects, what larval stages are living in the water. I'm sure there are going to be lots and lots of dragonfly larvae. We've been seeing them mating, mosquito larvae, all living in there. Ah, Manu. That is beautiful. Well spotted. Speaking of dragonflies and dragonfly larvae, which we probably won't see. But here is a dragonfly just resting up on a reed of sorts. Isn't that stunning? I unfortunately am not familiar with the species of dragonflies actually. I wonder if it's one of the tiger tails or something like that. Just the very dramatic yellow and black stripes that it has on its tail. Would maybe something like that. But again, unfortunately I'm not particularly good at identifying dragonflies. There's so many of them around here, but it was a beautiful one nonetheless. That was nice, isn't it? Lots of little goodies in here. Let's go see what else we can find up ahead. Oh, let's not get stuck in that. Okay. Oh, I see some warthogs. And some more buffalo. Just quickly having a scan to see if I can spot anything else. Oh, well, these pigs are probably having the best time. Let's very quickly have a look. Oh, cool, hang on. Do you guys remember the morning we had the hyena dragging around the buffalo skull. There it is, in the water. This is where we were. And we had that matriarch hyena. She had a collar on. That's how I know she was the matriarch. And that's what she was chewing on the other day. But we'll keep searching for more life. Our warthogs keep running away from us. So we'll give them a chance to carry on with it. Oh, no, there it is. Well done, Manu. However, Ralph, just to the north of me, has got a very cool bird.
Yes, thank you, Taylor, and a very cool bird it is. This is a Hamerkop, as I'm sure a lot of you do know, and you can see from the shape of his head, that is the reason why they call him that. Hamerkop in Afrikaans, meaning hammerhead. So, and you can see that really strange hammerhead shaped head with the feathers coming out the back. Now these birds love to hunt frogs. That is their primary food. But they also catch little fish and larvae and insects. Say larvae like dragonfly larvae. So, you know, mosquito larvae maybe be a little bit small for them. So they're after anything that moves really in that water that they can spot, and they stab it and swallow it back. And very often they can get onto the frogs. So it's a lovely little setting here with a stream. This is one of the little tributaries that would run into the Mara. It's coming out of the escarpment. So all of this, with this recent rain, you can see there's quite lovely flow now as well. But also makes the water rather brown with the mud runoff that you get joining into the water. So it's a good sign. We've had lots of rain, so not a bad thing. So it's a beautiful setting here, and we just sitting nicely on it. We're actually on a little river crossing here, and we've spotted this Hamerkop from there. So we're on a little bit of a raised position, and it's a lovely spot to sit and watch him just on our way through as we're heading towards the areas where the lions have been around. So we never waste an opportunity to do a bit of birding, or if there's a beautiful little sighting such as this. And as you know, these birds are they do stay in couples. Alex, I like that comment coming from Alex saying that this bird has got a lovely mullet. Yes, definitely short back and sides, or top and sides, and long back. It's business in the front, the parties at the back, definitely. But these birds, they stay in couples. There was another one here, and as we drove up it flew off, and I thought that was our opportunity missed, but then we saw that there was another one down, and obviously the second participant in the couple, and they make a massive nest, one of the biggest nest builders in the world. But they make a nest entirely for themselves. If you have the sociable weavers, which are the biggest nest builders in the world, they are sociably working together for the greater nest. These Hamerkops, they build the nest all by themselves, for themselves. So they don't have numerous individuals assisting in the bigger part of nest building, which is very interesting. And they make it out of mud and reeds, the reeds all on the outside and the mud lined inside, and then they do go and collect all sorts of flotsam and jetsam. And obviously with the onset of pollution and so on from humans, they drag all sorts of items out of rivers, and they line their nests with that. Now, Sinek, you're asking the question, how strong is the Hamerkop's beak's force when catching prey? Well, it is reasonably strong, because they still need to sort of spike the frogs, or really grab them. You know, frogs can be quite strong with those legs pushing out, and the same thing with fish as well. I wouldn't say they're quite as strong piercing like a kingfisher or a heron, but they've got quite almost like a crocodile, quite good closing strength. And then they would obviously bash it and try and kill it, and maybe bash it a bit on a stone, on a rock, before they would throw it back. normally head first, especially with fish. They've got spines, so they want to tuck those spines back as they swallow it down, and also easier with frogs getting their legs wrapped in alongside the body. So always head first. Right, we're going to head off head first as well. We're going to leave this little Hamerkop to carry on his fishing afternoon. Hopefully he can catch himself a frog or two, and we're going to head up and see if we can find some of these lions. Alright, so we're going to carry on looking for these lions, and from one lovely birding encounter to another, let's go over to Taylor, who I think has got some very hairy birdies.
We do, and James says they kind of look a little bit like me. I disagree though. I think Tristan also says that the crown cranes look like me, but of course the boys are always teasing me. But we have found what we set out to find this afternoon, which makes me very happy. It is a crowned crane sitting on a nest, which is very cool, and there's plenty of them nesting at the moment all around this marshy area. However, in my opinion, this is the best view of the nest, well, of one that I've found so far. So their nests are quite interesting. I'd like to see it if she were to get off. So that'd be quite cool. But you can see the material that she has used to build that nest is much drier than the green grass around her. So it'll be made of sticks and grass and all sorts of other things that they'll collect nearby. And both the male and the female will collect bits of grass and twigs and all the nesting material. So they build it together, which is quite cool. And I mean, this doesn't look like a particularly big one. I would say it's maybe about half a meter long. I don't know how wide it is. I mean, they're large birds, but I have read that they can sometimes make nests up to 2 meters in length, which is a huge nest. Not quite as big as the Hamerkop nest, which you haven't seen the nest with Ralph, but you saw the bird that makes some of the largest nests in the world. But the crowned crane does a very, very good job. And I think this is, of course, this is my first time really having any experience with these crowned cranes. And typically they would nest on the ground in a marshy area like this in sort of shallow water. And that's quite good because that helps add a bit of protection, say, from things that would want to eat the eggs. Except we know that pythons like to come through here. They would gobble up the chicks once they've hatched. Hyenas don't mind water. They could come and eat the eggs. Water monitors. And speaking of things that can harm the nest and, well, the chicks and the eggs and all those things, Ben, you were wondering, isn't this nest in danger being out in the open? I suppose any nest is in danger, but they all have their special ways to try and keep it safe. And the way that this bird has tried to keep it safe is by building it in a sort of shallow water, so that might be a deterrent. But there's so many things out here that don't mind water, that are so accustomed to it. So I suppose yes, she's in a bit of danger there, but she seems quite content. She's been sitting on this nest for the last couple of days now. I don't know when exactly she laid her eggs. That would have been spectacular to see. Imagine watching a crowned crane lay their eggs. And it's quite close to the road. It would have been in full view for all the wonderful tourists to see. Now, Toma, you're wondering if these birds can fly, why do they build their nests on the ground? Well, they sometimes build their nests up in trees, but it's not very common. This is sort of the more common thing that they'll use, say, an old vulture's nest or an eagle's nest, basically a platform nest of sorts, which will be built at the top of a tree. But I haven't seen that yet, but that's not to say that they don't do it. I don't know, they're very aquatic birds. They spend a lot of time in the marsh, so this is their home. So why would you want to build your nest somewhere else where you don't live? Where they love to eat frogs. There's plenty of frogs around at the moment. They eat insects, so it's perfect for these birds. They don't have to go too far to try and find food, and that's very important for when these chicks hatch as well. It means that they will be able to find their food fairly quickly. But very cool. So we'll keep checking up on this lovely lady and her nest, and hopefully we'll get to see some crowned crane chicks. I know Jamie hasn't seen any, and I think she said she's dying to see them. So hopefully when she comes back from leave, she'll have a chance to. But let's shoot on aboard Ralph's car. Apparently he's got some warthogs.
Yes, and the this mommy warthog, shame, has got this one lovely little piglet. Now I'm sure that there would have been more of them, and unfortunately quite often the little piglets fall prey to lots of predators, especially maybe the smaller cat-like predators, maybe the caracal and even jackals, but they won't go amiss from a leopard or a hyena or a lion. Nevertheless, at least there's still one alive and looks quite happily grazing with mommy, learning the ropes. At least now she's only got one to worry about, and that's looking on the bright side, and she can put all her concentration into looking after this youngster. It's fascinating to watch warthogs, I will always find, and they are such characters, as you can see with this little piglet. I wonder if he's off to the market later. And there's mommy. You can see the tusks on her, and quite easily identifiable as a female with only the one set of warts on the face. And there in the background comes through a plain zebra, and quite a few of them have crossed the road in front of us as well. A lovely setting for these warthogs. They are actually quite bulk grazers, and they do need a lot of grass areas to feed. Now, Sinak, you're wondering how many piglets will one warthog have? They can have up to 10, I think it's about 10 or 12 piglets at a go, and they can have that three to 4 times a year. So they are actually very highly successful breeders. And in areas where there is a low concentration of predators, their population explodes. So, and they can actually effect quite detrimental overgrazing effects on the land if they are left unchecked. And that's when sometimes you do need to bring in a little bit of control of their numbers. Otherwise, they do affect the land quite heavily. So, very effective breeders, but like the impala, like the sardines in the ocean, they do fulfill a very big prey function for the predators. So if you don't have those predators in the area, it can be quite detrimental. And look at that happy little piglet. Now Mia asking the question, do I know how old this little piglet is? Well, it's not much older than a month, I would say. So it's quite a young little piglet, but you can see that even when they're so young like that, because of this millennia of them being pressured by predators, they do need to be able to be almost independent very quickly. They need to be able to run, they need to be able to follow, and they need to be able to hide. So and there you can see very easily doing that with mommy at the moment, staying right in close behind her, and as soon as she starts to run, you see immediately that little tail whip up like a little flag, and the youngster can follow that through the grass. And there's also that sort of squeal that they give off, very often a warning sign, and they also grind their teeth, giving a snorting like impression. It does sound like it's a but it's actually the molars in the back of their mouth that they grind over each other, and it's almost like a okay, sorry folks, let's quickly go over to Taylor. She's got something exciting for you.
Look how cool this is. We've got an eagle. I'm not sure if it's a juvenile marshal or a juvenile African fish eagle just yet, but it's just because of the way it's positioned. But look, you can see it's a tail. It's got a water monitor. That is incredible. This is insane. Now, before we identify exactly what eagle it is, because it can be a bit on the tricky side with juvenile marshals and fish eagles, because they're quite mottled in color, both sort of brown and white, but this one does have quite a bit of white in it. I just want to quickly open my bird app. Now, we were just talking about things that would eat the crowned crane's eggs and chicks, and I said the water monitors are one of them. So it just shows you how they do love this area, this marshy area. Now, there's a very inquisitive Hamerkop that's just to the left of it, eagle, and is not very happy with what's going on at the moment. Don't know if you're going to be able to hear it because the wind has picked up quite a bit, so it's very, very loud. But that Hamerkop will probably try and mob that big eagle, and I hope it doesn't though, because that's a great meal for that eagle and they need to eat too. There's also some hardy-dar ibises making a racket. Where? Fishy eagle. I can't concentrate, I'm so excited. Let's go here. Let's look for a marshal. I just haven't seen a juvenile, either one of the two, for such a long time. Before I make a mistake, let's just check very quickly. No, Faith, unless it gets a bit more exciting, let's hold off on that action broadcast for now. I just want to very quickly try and identify it. Marshal eagle. See, it does look like it has a little bit of a... No, it doesn't really, hey? I'm just looking at obviously a crowned eagle has got a crown on the back of its head, but it's a bit difficult to tell with the wind. No, I think it's a fish eagle. I think it is a juvenile fish eagle. I just can't find... Do you think I could find fish eagle on my app? No? Let's type it in, fish. I don't know why my phone is not working. Phone, would you like to go for a swim? Because that can be arranged. I have to turn my phone off every now and then. I think I'm going to say... yeah, let's go... What does everybody else think? What's everybody else's thoughts between a fish eagle, a juvenile fish eagle, and a juvenile marshal? I just wish the wind would stop, because then we could really see if it did have a little bit of a crown. Now, this monitor lizard is obviously still alive because we saw it thrashing its tail. And they have got a particularly thick skin too. So it would be tough. It's not an easy thing for the eagle to take on, especially because it's quite a large one. Just from the size of its tail, I'm going to say that... Okay, you all think that it's a marshal. Let's go with a marshal then. I'll trust you guys. I don't feel like I'm on birding form today, so thank you. Let's go with the census there. Even the impala are just starting to alarm now. So... Marshal eagles, fish eagles, crowned eagles, they've got exceptionally large talons, and that's what they will use to try and crush their prey. But I think in this case, this bird is actually going to have to use its very sharp beak too, and it might have to try and bite just behind the back of its head and kill it that way. And it needs to be careful, because that tail... If some of you remember, I had an incredible sighting with Chitwa, who is a leopard down in the Sabi sand in South Africa. She tried to take on a monitor lizard and failed. She got whipped with that very, very strong tail. So if a leopard is going to get injured by a monitor lizard's tail, you can imagine an eagle would be no exception. So it needs to be very, very careful, and obviously, like any predator, it wants to kill its prey as quick as possible, because the longer it's alive, the more chance there is of it getting injured, and it could be killed. There we go, there's that tail again. Trying to use it like a whip. This is so cool. Now, a great question from CNAC this afternoon, wondering if it's common for marshal eagles to eat water monitors. Most certainly. I have actually got many silhouetted pictures of marshal eagles holding either a rock monitor or a water monitor. It's one of their favorite foods. Also, if any of you have ever watched the dam cam, the Djuma dam cam at Warthog Dam, then you'll know there's been a few sightings of marshal eagles catching water monitors down there that bake on those lovely logs. So yes, but marshal eagles eat a variety of different things. I mean, they eat young impala lambs, they eat everything that you can think of. Water monitors, they'll eat snakes, they'll scavenge off carcasses, and most of the raptors will too. I mean, ideally the bigger eagles do hunt for themselves, but if there is an opportunity to scavenge, they most certainly will. I'm hoping that it comes out into the open because it's very difficult to see at the moment, and I would love to see how big this monitor lizard actually is. So I'm just looking at pictures again on the juvenile, and I think you guys are all quite right. That mottling on the neck, those, it almost looks like spots, is typical of a juvenile marshal. So that's quite cool. The fish eagle doesn't have that. So that's quite nice to know. Okay, I haven't seen a juvenile marshal eagle for such a long time. Very cool. Now, Chitwa, you're wondering if this particular eagle, marshal eagle, is about the same size as the bald eagle. I think that was the question. I'm not exactly sure how big the bald eagle is, but they look very similar to the fish eagle. But a marshal eagle can weigh up to about 4 kilograms, so that's quite a heavy bird. It's at about 8.5 pounds. So it's definitely not small, and then they can even get a bit bigger than that, maybe even pushing to 5 kilograms or so. They're a large bird, and then they've got a huge wingspan, up to about I'd say about 2.4 meters. Anywhere between about 1.8 and about 2.4 meters in length, so it's quite big, almost as long as a doorway. They really aren't small birds. You know, when I really get to notice how large a raptor is when they're sitting in a tree and you're lucky enough to get underneath them or get quite close to them while they're in a tree. Then you can see how massive they are. They're much bigger than tawny eagles. They're also bigger than fish eagles. They're one of the largest eagles we have out here. Hamerkops are very unhappy. It's a pity about the wind because there's some great sounds, but it is howling out in the Mara. Now it's just waiting there. Actually, I can't see what technique it's trying to use to try and kill it. I don't know if it's got it like really tightly latched in its talons. That was the Hamerkop that was just flying around there. And where it's biting, if it's biting behind its neck, that's why it's such a pity that it's in the shrub. But I think what would have happened is that monitor lizard would have tried to get away from this eagle and then ended up going to look for some shelter in a bit of sort of a little thicket there, but unfortunately not quick enough for this eagle. And it's pretty spectacular though, because a water monitor can move at a great speed. I mean, if any of you have ever seen them running along the ground or dashing through shallow water, it's pretty spectacular. So that marshal eagle would have had to have been quite quick. It would have soared down and almost bomb dropped on top of its prey. So you can also see how it's also quite panicked, this bird. Obviously now that the eagle is down on the ground, it's also quite vulnerable to other predators. And something like a young lion or a leopard, even a jackal might come through and harass an eagle like this. This could be quite exciting. I think it's probably getting quite tired now. You can see it's got its beak agape at the moment. Isn't that incredible? That's why I love coming on safari, and really, we say this all the time, you just cannot get bored. Because today I came out hoping to see crown cranes on a nest. We got that. Hoping to see the odd elephant, which I'm sure we will. But a marshal eagle, juvenile marshal eagle, attacking and killing a water monitor was most certainly not on my list at all for this afternoon. So that is a pleasant surprise. And for those of you that have got to know me quite well, you know that I appreciate the smaller sightings, and they're actually my preferred rather than watching a lion take something down. I love these interesting interactions that you don't often get to see. I wonder if this lizard hasn't wrapped itself around that shrub, and that's why it's struggling to kill it, because it can't quite get a clear open space. And now, what are you going to have to do? You're going to let go and let it run and try and catch it again? You're going to just try and pull it out. Now, Brad, you've asked if I think that this marshal eagle could eat that entire monitor lizard. Yeah, most certainly. Probably won't eat every last skerrick. I don't think it would eat the tail. I don't think the tail would be particularly tasty. It does taper down quite thin towards the end, and I don't think there's much muscle or flesh on that at all. Towards the part of where the tail joins the body, most certainly. But they'll just eat a little bit, as much as they can, and then probably move off. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a martial eagle like stashing its prey up in a tree. I mean, I've seen them most of the time feeding up in trees. I've seen fish eagles leaving bits, you know, fish carcasses you often see wedged up in the forks of trees. And I wonder if a martial eagle would do the same. I couldn't imagine that it wouldn't, especially if it's a rather large meal like this. Come on, show us how big that lizard really is. No, still panicked, still looking around here. There you go, trying to readjust. And just like anything, you know, it's a young immature bird. It's obviously not with the adults anymore, so this is a good meal. It's not easy hunting when you're young and inexperienced. Obviously it all comes with time. We watch it with the lions and leopards and cheetah, how they have to learn and how they make mistakes and ruin hunts and miss meals. This bird will be doing exactly the same thing. So it could have been looking for something the entire day, maybe for a day or two, and not found anything significant. But it's hit the jackpot this afternoon, that's for sure. Here we go. Come on, you can do it. Yeah, I think that's exactly what's happened. I think that monitor lizard has wedged itself in there. Looking towards us. It's not particularly worried that we're here. It gazes towards us every now and then, but it's still looking around. There are normally lots of hyenas that hang around here too, and that could be another problem, because a hyena would charge in and eat both of them quite happily. Eat the reptile and the bird. It's a shame. It's not easy going, not easy conditions with that wind as well. Every time it lifts its wings up, it just about gets blown over. See, that's what it's trying to do. So it's trying to jump, leap into the air, and then I think it's trying to pull the water monitor out at the same time. But water monitors have got huge claws. Obviously, they're really good diggers. We know that they like to dig open crocodile nests, and that could be holding on to some of that vegetation to some extent too, which would be helping that lizard stick to the ground. I'm just trying to see if I can see it, but I can't really see it. Some crowned cranes. Now you see that's what the eagle is looking at. Here we go. Come on, make your move. It's a big bird though, even though it is a juvenile. There goes the crowned crane that you just saw. And I actually heard some fish eagles calling in the far distance as well, so they're around this afternoon as well. I haven't seen any more thrashing of the tail, but I'm pretty sure it's still alive. Otherwise I think it would have dragged it out by now. Oh, they're very, very pretty birds. I think what I was thrown off about it not being a martial is that it didn't have that bright yellow eye that they typically have. But I suppose because it is a juvenile, it's still going to come with age. It's got quite a dark eye still. Let's see. No, I can't see it. Now, Cenac, you're wondering how big is this bird's wingspan. I did actually answer it just a little while ago. It can be anywhere between, I would say, I think I said between about 1.8 and about 2.4 meters, somewhere around there, give or take a little bit. So it's got quite a large wingspan. It's not a small bird. Well, I cannot believe you've got time to preen your feathers, birdie. Come on, focus. Do one thing. It's like me. I think of this martial eagle as the tailor. Can't concentrate, getting distracted all the time. But I think with the fact that it's been opening its wings and toppling over quite a bit, maybe there's a few that aren't aligned and that could affect it with trying to fly. So maybe that's why it's focusing on just quickly realigning all those hooks. Very important for a bird to have their feathers intact, otherwise they can't do the thing that birds do best, and that's flying. You hear there's the fish eagles. Look at that, just up top. Literally the tree straight above, there we go, That's where they are. It must be another pair too. So I'm just watching carefully. But there's a pair of African fish eagles. And they're calling. Isn't that beautiful? I love the way they move their heads around. And I wonder if there'd be a bit of a dispute here if that martial eagle does pull out that monitor, if these two would come down and try and take it away. I've never really seen a raptor fight before, but I'm sure it definitely happens. I mean, if hyenas chase lions around and try and steal their food, and jackals, you know, hang around carcasses and try and get a bit there, why wouldn't these birds try and get an easy meal unless they haven't seen it and are now flying away? And that's very cool. So you got to hear one of the most iconic calls of Africa too. That's fantastic camera work, Manu. Really, really amazing. Now the female fish eagle is actually bigger than the male. I didn't quite see which one was which though. Oh, that's stunning. Off they go. They look, you can see how windy it is. They're struggling to fly today. Off they go. Back towards the Mara River. Martial eagle, what you doing? It's still just stopped there. I just want to, I think I might have to move off the road just slightly. Oh, these guys are going to be able to go past. Sorry, I'm just going to pull off slowly. There's someone behind me. And it's very, very muddy with all the rain that we've had. So I just want to give them a bit of space to move around us. There we go. Now they can do what they need to do. That is incredible. Absolutely amazing. I don't know if it looks like it's maybe given up now, or if it's just playing the patience game, just taking a bit of a breather. It must be quite exhausting. I mean, we don't know how long it's been fighting this monitor lizard for. I don't think it will give up though. I feel like it's invested so much time into this now. But again, this could take ages. This could take forever. I mean, we could sit here for the next hour before something happens, or the sighting gets better, it's able to pull that lizard out. I love that little feather that's just sticking at the top of its head. That's so pretty. I think that's going to lose that one. Okay, well, we'll sit here for a little bit longer, and I will call you back very quickly if anything else develops. But off you go, back across to Ralph.
Okay, everyone, so we were driving along, coming past a whole massive herd of buffalo, which we are heading back towards again at the moment, but on the other side of them we spotted some little tawny coloured heads poking out over the grassland, which we suspect from the long distance to be a pride of lions. Now we've just circled around and we're trying to get back to where we spotted them on a road running pretty close to them, and this is a non-off-roading area, so we won't be breaking any rules like that, but I think we should be able to get reasonably close to them. And it's always a bit difficult when you've got to do a bit of a leapfrog around. You always hope that you can get into the area where you spotted them. Now I do think that we will, but it's now a little bit unsure of exactly where we spotted them, so we've just got to go a little bit slowly and just keep our eyes peeled for those tawny heads once more, and I think we should be seeing them quite soon. But I'll stop in a minute anyway and we can have a look, because there's a big herd of buffalo and there's some elephants there as well. So we can have a stop and a look and see if we can spot those lions. Maybe they've just gone flat, that we can't see them very well at the moment. But let's stop and have a look now. So I'll just turn us. Okay folks, please don't forget to throw us your questions and your comments on Twitter and the YouTube live chat. Now off there in the distance, we're just going to be having a quick look here, and you can see there is a big herd of buffalo as well as a lovely elephant walking towards us, which we'll have a look at the moment. I'm just scanning with my binoculars so that we can do two things at once here. I haven't seen where they are now, but it is good news that we've spotted potential for these lions. Now Archie's just scanning a bit. There's a lovely elephant walking through the plains, doing a bit of grazing, and as we speak we're starting to get a few splatters of rain as well, but we might be lucky that it moves past us slightly, because we're not right in the epicenter of the route that it would be taking. It's moving more along the escarpment, so we might be lucky, but nonetheless that is a beautiful setting with that elephant walking through there. Looks like a nice youngish male. He's still got decent sized tusks on him, so he's not a youngster, but he's not very old either, so he's probably middle-aged, similar to me. Megan, I agree with you. Megan saying what a beautiful elephant, or Ellie. Yes, I would say so too, and what a beautiful setting it is as well, with the escarpment rising up in the background there and him walking through the open plains, still having no sight of these lions. Now have they managed to get away from us? I'm not sure. Still need to keep scanning. As I say, sometimes just when they lie flat and they put their heads down, they almost disappear into the grass, and when we saw them their heads were up, so it just gives us a little bit easier to be able to see them. Miss Parker asking the question, what has been my favourite about the Mara so far? Well, I've only done a couple of things, but I have to say so far, being the hot air balloon flight, I did it twice over the plains, over the Mara River, and that was absolutely fantastic for me, and the highlight so far. Now I have managed to spot there's a big male lion with my binoculars. I'm just going to try and direct Archie. Archie, if you go just on that same plane that elephant's walking, go to the left towards the river, slowly, and right there, towards, there we go, in you go, that's it. There's a male lion there, I do believe. And you can see the rain coming down, but we are going to, in a minute, start up and head towards that lion. I think this road does go towards that line, so I think that's going to be the plan. Let's get closer. I think we're a bit far from here, and just be aware as well, we might have to close up in a minute because this rain might get the better of us, so we might have to close up our canvas sides. In fact, I think we're going to have to do it now, so I'm just going to turn with our backs away from the rain because it's all of a sudden starting to come down. So let's get ourselves nicely covered up, and then I can head towards the line. So in the meantime, while we cover up and this rain comes down, let's go back to Taylor and see how that Marshall Eagle's doing.
Struggling, I think, at the moment. It's shuffled around quite a bit, but we haven't seen the tail whip back up again. It's now using a different technique. It's actually just going in with its beak, and I think the fact that it's shuffled is perhaps it's just going to try and tear open that water monitor with its very, very sharp beak. When it was looking at us a moment ago, we had a close look at it, and I couldn't see any blood or anything around the beak, so I think this is the first time it's actually making contact. Oh, I wish you could hear it. I can actually hear a tearing noise every now and then. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's trying to use that sharp hook that it has on the end of its beak to tear through that scaly skin. it's I can just hear it, and I don't know if you're going to be able to. It's a pity. It's just because of the wind. It's a very, very, very windy afternoon out here in the Mara. Oh, I wish I could get you closer. It's such an incredible noise. I mean, we always sit and it's so interesting to hear the different sounds when animals are feeding, you know, from an elephant munching or a buffalo chewing to lions squabbling over a carcass or tearing into a buffalo. But this is the first time I can say that I've actually had audio of a raptor sort of tearing into its prey. It's quite spectacular. Yeah, I think it has to be dead now. I think that it's not fighting back. And I think it's making some headway, getting through that tough skin. Please be a deer and bring it out so we can watch you feed on it, so we can also see how big it is. Here you can see its big talons just every now and then. I mean, I don't think it would want to eat it there. It doesn't look like it's a particularly comfortable spot. I would drag it out into the open. Please do it for us. Maybe if I just keep asking it, it will. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get lucky. Yeah, there we go. You can start to see the chunks of flesh every now and then. So I'm quite confident in saying that that monitor lizard would have to be dead now. I don't know which part of it it's eating first. It's a bit difficult to see, of course. And we're sitting in and it's feeding on the floor at the moment. I'm probably just trying to get a bit of a snack in. Like I said, it could have been quite hungry. And then Henry, you were wondering if now that it's dead, will it fly away with its kill? It could, because I've seen them feeding up in trees. So if something comes around here and starts harassing it on the ground, most certainly. I mean, they will quite happily feed on the ground, but it's popping its head up every now and then, so it does have other predators to worry about, even though it is a predator itself. So if, say, a hyena comes charging through you or a jackal, you will probably find that it will try and carry it up and then sort of roost in a tree of sorts. It'll have to be quite an open tree because they're big birds with those big wings, so it's not going to be able to have too many leaves on it. Maybe find a nice open branch, a spot where it can hook the monitor lizard onto some, you know, to make it a bit more stable for it to feed, and then it will. I mean, that would be ideal, but also it could be, maybe it's too big. I mean, it didn't look like a small creature. That tail looked quite large and quite thick. I know, like I was saying, it does taper down towards the end. About a meter or so, so not fully grown, but you know, quite a big animal, weighing a couple of kilograms. I mean, adult martial eagles take down, you know, juvenile impala lambs. They take often, and they weigh a couple of kilograms too. Oh, you've picked the worst spot to sit. But sometimes nature can't always be perfect. Can't have everything. Can't have an incredible sighting like this and be out in the open. Now, for those of you that have just joined us, I'll just quickly do a recap. We stumbled across, basically we just saw a wing, and I thought it was a vulture that was dead on the ground. It wasn't dead though, it started moving, and we identified it with the help of all of you as a juvenile martial eagle, and then we worked out that it was a monitor lizard that it had because of the pattern on its tail. And we didn't see any big scaly plates, so that's how I know it wasn't a crocodile, because juvenile crocodiles are a similar colour. But of course, you know, they've got those big ridges going down their backs. We didn't see anything like that. And you can ask questions. You can hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or you can chat to us via the YouTube chat if you'd like to know anything about this martial eagle, which is quite cool. I don't think I've seen... If it was out in the open, I would say that I'd be quite happy in saying that it's the best martial eagle sighting I've had. But I did have a really cool sighting of one up in a tree one day. It was actually during TV last year sometime. I was out tracking and I stumbled across it at sunset. It was beautiful. It was very nice. I got a lovely picture. But we'll still sit here and hope that this martial eagle drags its kill out into the open so we can see better. Ralph, however, is spending some time with the grey giants.
Yes, well, thanks, Taylor. I know that generally is what they are, gentle giants. However, this young male bull elephant, I don't know if you saw when we left them, he was in that trajectory straight towards that male lion, and it looks like he's chased that lion down into this little stream bed, and he's gone off following him. So we don't know what's happened to the male lion. And all we know is that this bull elephant doesn't want him in this area whatsoever. So he's gone after him, chased him down the bank, and when we came up he was a little bit irritated with us as well, because I think the lion had pressed his buttons, and now he's gone off down after the lion. Well, what has happened to the lion is anybody's guess. I think he might be wading a little bit in the stream, trying to avoid this bull elephant. So it's very interesting to watch that kind of interaction, huh? And I'm going to drive a little bit forward now, just so that we can see if we can get a bit of a better picture. But we do need to be a little bit cautious of this bull elephant now, because he's just being a little bit, you know, he's been aggressive towards the lion, and he's sort of shaking his ears at us as well. So we don't want to press his buttons too much. He gets into that state obviously when there's predators around, and they do often chase lions and leopard and hyena away. I can't see where this lion is. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not actually hanging on a log over the water or something, just avoiding this elephant. I'm coming up past this elephant, so I'm going to stop here. And we just take a little bit of a view, but if he comes out of here and towards us, I will just start up and continue along, because we don't want to be too close to an elephant that is in that mode of chasing things. But he seems to... Yes, Brad, thanks for your comments. I'm making yes, that's a big bully of a bull elephant. Well, if I was that big, I don't know, I might also push my weight around a little bit, especially in the vicinity of lions, because we know that they do chase baby elephants around in the darkness, and they could potentially fall prey to them as well. And we know that in Botswana, with the super prides of 30 plus lions, they do hunt and specialize in hunting elephants. So it's not for no reason that this elephant will, when he has the chance, bully lions, because it can be turned on its head in the evening, especially when there's less light around, and these elephants don't know where these lions are, and all they can do is smell them, because, as I've said, with their eyesight being very similar to that of ours, they won't be able to see the lions, merely smell them. Now imagine that fear that must be present in these animals when they can't see the danger, they can only smell it. And they smell that it's in the area and they can't pinpoint where it's coming from. That fear would translate to aggression in such big animals such as elephants. And that's what he's exhibiting, or has just exhibited, unfortunately, that we didn't get to see. We were also putting up our flaps and getting out of the rain. Now it's stopped raining again, so we've had to wind them up again. So it's really playing havoc with us too. Now, Chitwa, you wondering how far an elephant will travel for water? Well, in an area such as this, I wouldn't say that they travel much more than 10 kilometers at a time, because there's so much water readily available. However, in the desert of Namibia, where I have spent many years with the desert elephants there, they can travel hundreds of kilometers for water, and they can go up to 4 or 5 days without water, which is very special adaptation for those desert elephants. They don't sorry, let's just go across here. He has moved on a bit, like he was chasing that lion again. Now he's looking at us. He's just he is playing around a bit as if that lion is still in that area. Now, as I was saying, I have seen them walking hundreds of kilometers, and they can go 4 or 5 days without water, whereas these elephants will probably drink 2, if not 3 times a day, and they're constantly topping up, whereas those desert elephants, they can go for several days without water, and then obviously would need to have a big drink after that. But now if we look at it, it's not a different species. It is exactly the same species, Loxodonta africana. They're just better adapted to their surroundings. So, you know, putting it in human terms, we could say it's like the Eskimos being able to sustain themselves better in sub-freezing conditions, or the Sherpas of the Himalayas, which are able to survive up in extremely high altitudes because of their white blood cells that are increased in their blood, and the Bushmen of the arid parts of southern Africa being able to also go for long periods without water. So we're going to sit here. I'm going to try and relocate this male lion, but in the meantime, let's go back to Taylor with her martial eagle.
We're being very patient on the sunset safari as our juvenile martial eagle devours its prey. It's actually tearing some rather large chunks of flesh off of it. Now, birds can't chew like you and I can, or a lot of the other animals out here. And it was quite interesting to see. It took such a large piece and was trying to swallow it, and really struggled to get it down. But then it did a couple of maneuvers and managed to swallow it. That is so cool. So a lot more pleasant to watch, I think, watching a raptor feast on a carcass, and when lions tear into it. We always say that there's no such thing as table manners when animals feed, but I feel as though the martial eagle's been quite sort of delicate about the way that it goes, except now you can see how it was struggling just every now and then to swallow those big pieces. This is a really exceptional sighting. But of course Manu and I are laughing, saying typical, what a great sighting, but now we can't see the entire monitor lizard. Pull it out by its tail, otherwise I'm going to go in there and do it for you. I'm of course just joking. I'm not allowed to get out the car, and I would never interfere like that. Sometimes I say things I don't mean, just to get everybody to turn their heads quickly. Now, Mary, you're wondering if a hyena would try and steal this water monitor carcass? Most certainly, and maybe even catch the bird in the process, you know, 2 for the price of 1. We love those kind of deals. Well, I do, especially when I go shopping. So I would imagine that a hyena would like, well, the exact same thing. So yes, and I'm surprised that no hyenas have actually come charging in, because there's a clan that live around here we see on a regular basis. We're not far away from where we had that matriarch hyena that was pulling around the buffalo skull, which I showed you a little while ago. So that could happen. What you'll probably find, though, is that this was all relatively quiet, so there wasn't a lot of noise made either by the martial eagle or by the monitor lizard. Whereas when a lion takes down a zebra or a buffalo or an impala or a leopard takes down an animal, and the same goes for a cheetah or any of the mammals, typically there's a distress call. You know, they're struggling, they're trying to get free, letting out their last screams, and that is what normally attracts other predators to the area. So I suppose raptors have got one up in the fact that it's fairly quiet. You know, maybe a young impala lamb could make a bit of noise, but the way that these martial eagles will take down impala lambs is that, like I said, they fly up in the sky and then they dive bomb down and smash down onto their prey. And sometimes they hit them at such a force it could break their neck, break their backs, that type of thing, or kill them instantly if they're lucky enough. Here we go. You're moving now. Drag it, please. Use those big talons to hook onto that monitor lizard. Here we go. Yes. Pull. Oh, it's a tricky spot. See, I don't think it wants to be eating it in there, but and now I'm realizing maybe it doesn't have a choice. Perhaps that monitor lizard wedged itself in properly to try and evade this martial eagle, but unfortunately it did not win today. So 1 for the martial eagle, 0 for the monitor lizard. There we go. It was probably, the monitor lizard was probably on its way to find a crocodile nest to dig up some croc eggs, which they love to eat, or start harassing the crowned cranes to eat their eggs. They love to eat eggs. So it's amazing how nature works. We have too many monitor lizards. They could wipe out the population quite easily of a lot of birds that nest on the ground. There you go. Pull, pull, pull. There, you can start to see the tail now. Now, Emily, you're wondering if birds of prey or eagles ever get used to the cars? I suppose so. I mean, you know what we do see, Emily, is we see a lot of the... Did you lose my audio? Oh no. Oh no. What's happened? Back. You got me. Ah, sorry everybody, we had a bit of a technical difficulty there. My audio disappeared, which is unusual, because normally you can hear me from hundreds of kilometers away. So sorry, Emily, just to get back to that. We normally see things like hornbills and starlings and spurfowls and franklins around picnic spots. And when I say a picnic spot, a place where people will often have sundowners, and you drop your crisps or a peanut here and there's bits of food left behind. Then you'll find those birds becoming quite relaxed. However, I haven't ever experienced raptors becoming relaxed around the vehicles, not that I've ever noticed. And this bird is obviously quite relaxed, but we're quite far away from it. We've given it a lot of space. You wouldn't want to go off-roading up to something like this, so we've given it a lot of room. It's quite happy to just carry on and eat. Now, where are you going? Don't tell me you're done. Surely not. Know where it's walking to now. Scary the way that they walk, though. Oh, there we go. Are you going to fly now? Normally they do that just when they're about to take off. Have you eaten your fill? I wonder if it's given up. It does look like it's tangled in there. This is where, if this bird were to fly off now, I wish we had a bushwalk kit, or I wish we were in an off-roading area, because I would love to go and investigate and go and have a look and see how big this lizard is, how much of it that martial eagle has actually eaten. What are you doing back there? You gone camera shy all of a sudden? There we go. Oh, that's beautiful. Isn't that perfect? Now you've decided to sit on the smallest little shrub in the entire world. Well done. You're quite a heavy bird. I think it's trying to balance and distribute its weight now on that shrub. Snazzy, you're wondering how much in terms of weight can this bird carry in flight? Let's have a look. I'm not exactly sure, and I don't want to tell you big stories. Let's see. I'm just quickly opening my bird app and just having a quick look to see if it does say if it can carry. Yeah, maybe about 3 or 4 kilograms or so. I'd say somewhere around there. I haven't got anything in my book. I'm just sort of having a little guess, so I could be off. No, it doesn't say anything, unfortunately, on my bird app, but I would say somewhere around there, which would be about the weight of a young impala lamb. I mean, some of those monitor lizards can get a bit more than that, and they get quite big. I wonder why it's hopped up over there. Looks like it's seen something. You can see the way it's bobbling its head. So I'm just having a look to see if I can spot anything in the distance. No, nothing in particular. Moving towards it. Just having a bit of a rest. I mean, you can see that its crop's not particularly full either, so I don't think it's eaten its fill just yet. I wonder what would have encouraged it to go up to the top of that little shrub. But it is posing beautifully now, though, which is quite nice. I'm excited to see your collection of the screenshots later this evening when I get back to camp. So if you do put a little collage together, maybe you can try and get that monitor lizard as it was sort of whipping its tail one last time before it took its last breaths. That would be quite cool to see, don't you think? You can hashtag Safari Live. That's how we'll see it. Now, Bill, I'm trying to get inside this bird's head, and you're wondering if I think that it's given up on its food. I don't know if it's just taking a break. I mean, we don't know how long it had been fighting that monitor lizard for. I mean, it could have been here for a long time. They're incredibly tough creatures, the monitor lizards, so I don't think it would have been a very easy animal for the martial eagle to kill, especially the way that it's tried to curl itself in some shrubs. I think it would have taken some time. So maybe it's just exhausted and it's eaten a little bit. Now it's just taking a bit of a rest. Obviously, if it flies off now, then I'm going to say yes, it's going to abandon its kill and somebody else will come and take care of it. A jackal would love it. We've been talking about the hyenas that live around here. They would definitely go for that. Another raptor. I mean, a young leopard, hungry leopard, come through. Lion, anything would finish up that monitor lizard. It doesn't seem to be particularly interested anymore. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, looking around. No, it's looking down again. Maybe it's going to hop on to the ground. No. I think it's taking a break. Oh, what a pity. I really thought we were going to see it try and drag the entire carcass out. But I think our luck is maybe running out. Like I said, we can't have everything. But that was definitely one of the best sightings I've had with a martial eagle. Now, Gus, you're wondering if I was on foot, would the eagle fly away or would it attack me? I would hope that it would not attack me. Goodness, can you imagine? It would gouge my eyes out. No, I'm just teasing. No, it would fly away from us. So even if I were to get out the car or just open my door and close it, I'd probably give it quite a fright and it would fly away. So you don't really have to worry about this eagle. I think it would quite happily just give up its kill and not want to take on a human. We're much bigger than them. So they'll see us as a predator too and a threat. And what we must remember is that no animal out here wants to injure itself because then they might not be able to hunt and essentially they could die. So if they can avoid conflict at all costs, they will. But who knows? Maybe it's the bravest martial eagle of them all. I think we'll sit here for a little bit longer just to see what happens, and if not, then we'll move on because we're going to have to start dodging rain soon. Sorry, I went to sneeze and then it turned into a tickle in my throat. I am going to send you across to Ralph, who's not too far away, and he's finally managed to find some cats.
Yes, well, thanks, Taylor. After that young bull elephant chased that lion into the river, I thought that might have been our lions gone. But we rounded the corner and we found this fat guy lying in the grass. So we were quite lucky. I haven't been able to, once again, with them being so flat like this, see any distinguishable characteristics. I wouldn't, however, be surprised if it's not one of the three that we saw yesterday on the afternoon drive, with that one without the end of his tail. Now, I did see that some people mentioned that he's been called half-tail. I think that's a little bit further than what has actually happened to him, because it's only the little tip of his tail that's been taken off. So maybe we should call him something a bit more apt than that. But I'm not going to be changing names of any lions. I'm just and he's got the tip of his tail, so maybe he was one of the others that was lying in the grass, but it does seem to be in a very similar area. So there we see the little tip, which was missing yesterday with that stumpy tailed lion that we found. And there seemed to be a group of three that are moving through this area. There's still lots of flies on him there. That's quite normal, quite natural, and quite heavy breathing. He does seem to have a reasonably large belly. It's not massively rotund, but he might still be in the mood for hunting. And if we look off to the right of him, if Archie moves off, we can actually see a very big herd of buffalo that he might get interested in a little bit later. And there they are, moving also down towards the river. They were the ones that we passed on our way down before the elephant sighting. Now, having chatted with Brent, he tells me that these lions in the area, they're not very big buffalo hunters. So they're not quite as big on them as they are in the Sabi Sands, for instance. Now he's just lifted his head up and having a look over at those buffalo, or maybe across at the topi. And there is also an aeroplane just taking off or coming into land. Maybe he's interested in that. You know, I've quite often watched lion in smaller private reserves. I mean, not tiny ones, in sort of 20,000 hectare reserves. They very often go and sit on the fence line where the main road, tar road, runs, and they watch the cars go past. It's almost like watching tennis. The heads going backwards and forwards. I think they find it quite intriguing and strange and unusual, and so they go and sit there for a bit of entertainment before their evening's hunting and back to normal reality for them. So maybe watching cars for them is like watching reality shows as we do, and then they get back down to their normal evening business. But quite funny to watch the lions watching cars go past. Very funny. And this guy's just lifted his head up, which is at least something, and still that very black mane. That's why I'm still thinking it's one of those three. Now Mary, you're wondering if female lions are more attracted to male lions with darker manes. I don't think that they would really be getting a choice in the matter, because it's more down to the strength and the prowess of the males. If they come in, they chase a male out, then they take over the females in that area, and it can be by force. Obviously the female needs to eventually be receptive, but she will be with a very strong male. There's just some guests coming past on a vehicle. I just say hello. But I think that they are very good looking with black manes, but I think that it's not down to the females to be choosing in terms of the color of the mane. It's more down to the power and the strength of them to be able to chase off a resident male or to protect them. So I think it's more down to that. But I would like to think that the females do like the lions with black manes, because I do. They're it just makes them look that much more gnarly. Now, Proud Cat Mama asking the question, why are lions important to the ecosystem? Well, I touched on it a little bit earlier. Very important to have apex predators, Proud Cat Mama, because it fulfills a very big controlling function. For instance, with the warthog was the example that I used earlier. If they are left unchecked, their population can explode and they will overgraze an area very, very quickly, and that will then be to the detriment of other species in the area as well. So now, when I studied conservation and wildlife management, there can also be a sort of a human intervention there. We don't like to intervene, but if you don't have any apex predators, it is actually to the betterment of the populations and the game populations that there is some kind of controlling factor, whether it be in small form of hunting or utilizing some of the meat for the restaurants on the game reserve, etc. A little bit of control is always good and in wilderness populations. It does help with natural selection. It also helps with survival of the fittest. So the stronger ones, the fitter ones, the cleverer ones are the ones that go through. Their genes will then survive. So lions assist in that natural process of natural selection and survival of the fittest. So I would say that is probably their foremost function in controlling populations and keeping the strongest genes available to the rest of the population. So very, very important. Right, so we're going to sit here and see what happens with this male lion, and hopefully he gets up and starts to do a bit of hunting. There's a bit of rain on its way, but in the meantime, let's go over to Taylor, who's got a lovely big bird for you.
Well, I don't know if I would describe this bird as lovely, but we'll go with it then. It is a Marabou stork, one of the ugliest birds in the world. Don't you think? They're funny looking creatures. Even that impala's having a good chuckle at that bird as it walks past. So maybe we'll set ourselves a challenge today. Shall we do the ugly 5? I think so. We've already seen the warthog. We've seen the warthog with not just me, but you also saw it with Ralph and some little warthogs. Now we've got the Marabou stork, so that makes number 2. All that leaves us with is the wildebeest, the vulture, and the hyena. I think that's a good challenge. I like doing the ugly 5 challenge, which is quite nice. Also a Thompson's gazelle, just resting at the back. Now, this would be another bird that would quite happily feast upon that monitor lizard, would be the Marabou stork. They eat lots of different things. One of my all-time favorite sightings, it wasn't just one in particular, it was just in general while I was in Zambia in the Lower Zambezi National Park, was watching all the different Marabou storks, not all the different, but all big groups of them, walking through the long grass and feasting on armored ground crickets. Armored ground crickets? I think they were called that. They're quite large insects, horrible looking things, but the Marabou storks love to eat them. Now, something quite exciting, which involves me having to move forward. I hope it's still there. I think I can see it. Obviously, we just had the most amazing sighting with a juvenile martial eagle, and I was a little bit confused at one point with regards to if it was a martial or a juvenile fish eagle. Now we've got another juvenile raptor here, also quite big. Let's have a look and see who we've got. This looks more like a fish eagle to me though. There it is. I'll have a look with my binoculars as well. Yes. Look at that. Beautiful. Very mottled in colour. We saw 2 adults earlier, but this is definitely a juvenile fish eagle. Very dark feathers. I think that's quite fitting that we have seen now both of them. So now I don't think I'll ever get confused again. It was just because I hadn't seen a juvenile martial eagle for such a long time. I was a little bit confused. Also really big birds though. Now I wonder what it's got down on the ground, or if it's just resting. Maybe it's waiting for an opportunity. There's another Hamerkop. Hamerkops seem to be the most popular bird today, don't they? Harassing all the raptors. Leave them alone. They're not going to steal your frogs. There's plenty of frogs for you to feast on. But a lovely bird. And they take a couple of years to mature as well. Be nice if it would take off right now. Ooh, very exciting stuff. Now, our bird is pretty stationary this afternoon. Doesn't look like it's going anywhere. But Ralph's lion is on the move.
Yes, thanks Taylor. He was on the move and then he just stopped to do a little bit of his business. Now, with us as conservationists and rangers and guides, we do tend to become poo specialists, and the consistency of the poo that he just had now was relatively runny and black, which tells me that he has fed fairly recently, because that's generally part of the first defecations or poos that they have tend to be very runny, very black, very smelly. Now I haven't gone past there just yet and the wind's not coming straight towards me, but immediately after lions have fed, their poo is extremely runny, extremely black, and it stinks. If you've ever been behind lions, whether it's on a game viewer normally, after they have fed, it is a smell to behold. So anyway, we're going to start up and we're going to follow up behind him. I don't think he's in that stage. I don't think he's just fed, so it's not that bad. But I tell you, you won't forget that smell after you've smelt the gaseous exchange of lions after they've fed on a lovely big giraffe or buffalo. It is quite something. And he's starting to mark, so I'll just stop so we can just watch him there. He's on the move, doing a little bit of marking now. And this is great. This is watching him on his daily routine. fantastic. He's just sauntering along, and I wonder maybe that other male that was chased off by the elephant, he might meet up with him somewhere along this drainage line. But we will continue to follow this male. Maybe he's going to meet up with another one of the prides or with the other males, and I'm going to start up and move on a little bit. Okay, so let's just stay nice and close to him, just close enough not to interfere with him, but nice so that we can see what he's doing and join him on his daily routine, which is always exciting. You see what an afternoon in the life of a lion. It's a perfect area for them to be in. Now, Sinak, you're wondering if I've ever witnessed lions hunting elephant. I haven't seen them hunting elephant. I have, however, seen them hunting hippos, and that is a sight to behold as well. It was not a very enjoyable scene to be involved in, because it took them the better part of 3 days to kill the hippo. Well, they never killed it. It actually died of exposure eventually from them eating it alive. So it wasn't very nice, and it happens very similar with elephants as well. They do literally start eating the back end, and the elephant is not suffocated, not killed. It literally dies from exposure and from stress and from shock. So it's not for the faint-hearted, I can say that. But this lion, he's just sauntering a little bit on his daily routine. He's going to probably mark another few times. But what I'm hoping for is a lovely big roar. That would make my day. Yeah, this is a very, very beautiful setting. It was great to start with the elephant chasing one of his mates, and now we get to follow this guy. So I'm going to start up now, and we are going to follow him a little bit. And there is another vehicle with us, so we'll always just make a little bit of space for them too, so that everybody can have a nice look. It is, however, our encounter. We were here first, so we do have priority, but we'll make space for everybody, and that's the beauty of being here in the Masai Mara. It's not like in Djuma, where there might be actually tight space and quite difficult for 2 or 3 vehicles to be even able to see a leopard or a lion because of the vegetation and the landscape, whereas here it's quite a lot different to that. Alright, so I'm just going to reposition here now, nice and slowly, okay, and while we watch this lion continue up along the plains, we're going to take you 1,600 miles to the south into South Africa, and let's catch up with Scott and see what he is getting up to.
Up with Senzo on camera this afternoon. It's a beautiful sunny day here, and it sounds like you guys have got off to a wonderful start to this sunset safari with old Taylor and Ralph taking you around the Mara. Very happy that you got to see a martial eagle with its monitor lizard kill. Hopefully one day we'll actually be able to film them catching one. That's what I'm hoping for. Now, what can I see wagging its tail back there? I just saw a little bit of a movement. I think it could be some wildebeest. Oh, it's elephants. Wonderful. Looks like quite a large herd of them, and looks like they're just slowly feeding in quite thick vegetation. If we spend a few minutes here though and just establish what their plans are, we can then plan our attack or a route to get a little bit closer possibly. There you can see a few trunks and tusks cashing in on the lush green vegetation, which is thanks to our summer rains at the moment. Now, we are quite close to a waterhole. I was hoping that they'd be heading towards it, but it looks like they're actually heading away, so they've maybe already popped in at the waterhole. So let's just go ahead to the waterhole and make sure that there's nothing else there. It's a very hot afternoon, and they're in quite thick bush, so it'll be quite a tricky exercise to get closer to them. And I do have very, very good prospects, which do not really include elephant too much. An update on Tunde, Leopard and her young cub. They were found this morning at an area where it's presumed that it's kind of a new den site. So very, very exciting news. What happened was somebody was at her kill. She made an impala kill 2 days ago, a big male impala, and guys went to that kill this morning, found her feeding on it, and then she led them back to the new spot where she's got her tiny little cub nestled up. It does appear that it is only one cub, and we're in luck. There's a few elephants at the waterhole still, so we're gonna stop here and get a few good views of them. Let's stop right here. Now it looks like the one that's closest to us is a young bull, and I'm hoping he's going to give us a little bit of attitude. When we arrived, just kind of lifting his head up to try and make himself look big and strong. And like I said, the guys got taken back to Tunde's kill this morning, to her den site rather. So we already checked her kill on our way to the waterhole. She wasn't there, so what we're thinking of doing is from here heading in towards that area where hopefully we are going to be able to get you some views of her tiny little cub. Now there's some good news. It's not just the 3 elephants that are currently at this waterhole. There's a few more coming in, so we can get to see them excitedly arrive at the water's edge and start kind of running the last few meters, as they are understandably excited to quench their thirst and possibly even cool down and mud bath in this hot weather. Let me see if I can creep us a little bit further forward. We're not in the best spot here. And I don't want to be up on the dam wall because we might be a little bit too high there. I prefer a bit of a lower angle, so what we'll do is we'll just creep up along the side here a little bit. Hello to Snazzy. You've mentioned how beautiful and green it is here at the moment, and yes, it certainly is. The Sabi sands at this time of the year is as green, as lush as it will get, and really loving being back here after spending quite some time in the Masai Mara, which of course, as you guys will all agree, is a beautiful and incredible wilderness area that we are very, very lucky to traverse. But I'm enjoying the change of scenery here. The thicker vegetation makes it a little bit more exciting because you can't see as far, so you can be surprised pleasantly by finding little treasures along the way. Now let's take a quick look. There's some European bee-eaters that are also enjoying this waterhole, and they're coming in and bombing into the water to bath and have a drink of water. I'm going to put Senzo in a tricky spot here now because it's difficult to know which one is actually going to plonk into the water, but they have actually been kind of landing in the water and then taking off again, but now they've stopped, so possibly we'll keep them in mind and hope that they continue to do that. But for now, it seems like these elephants are trying to swish up and swirl up all this water to create a bit more of a milkshake-like consistency, which is better for mud bathing and throwing muddy water all over their body to keep cool, and also to help create a protective layer against the parasites that give them a hard time. I love watching elephants at waterholes like this. It's one of the great things about the summer months. In the hotter parts of the day, we tend to find the waterholes can be quite productive. Oh yay, there's a whole bunch more coming down to the water's edge as well. Let's take a look at them. Hello Linda, you would like to know if these ellies will also take a bath. And yes, sometimes the elephants will swim completely in the water with just trunks sticking out, and it is certainly one of the most awesome things to see. They really do enjoy the swimming from time to time. I'm surprised they don't do it more often actually, but sometimes they get in the right mood and you can almost see the joy on their faces when they do. How cool is this? Absolutely awesome. All shapes and sizes. No tiny youngsters, but definitely some cute little ones. And there's no set time of the year that elephants will give birth, not like most of the other herbivores that we find here. Speaking of which, we haven't seen the wildebeest herd for a day or so, so it'll be interesting to see if the resident herd has got any more youngsters. The last we saw they had 4. And oh, I think we're in luck. It looks like some of the youngers that are kind of just popping into the front of the screen now are having a little bit of a swim. Awesome. Hello to Mia, you would like to know if this is Fang's herd, and I don't think so because there's no sign of her around. For those of you who aren't aware of Fang, she's a large female elephant with one tusk that grows kind of forwards as they normally do, like you can see over there, and then one's pointing backwards completely in the opposite direction, so that's why she's been called Fang. And she hasn't actually been seen for quite a long time, I don't think. Not until a recent sighting of her, but she had disappeared, and a lot of you hadn't seen her for quite some time, until I think about a week or so ago. And I haven't seen her just yet, so I'm also looking forward to seeing her again for the first time. You see, now I just don't understand why all of them didn't go for a swim. I would definitely think it's the easiest way to wet your whole body. Is this young bull going to give us a little bit of a hard time? Is it a young bull, or am I going crazy? I think it is. No, it's not. It's a female. It's a young female. Just looked like it was being a little bit cheeky. There you can see her mammary glands under her front legs. Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing to distinguish between young males and females. Hello Rebecca, you've said this is a Saturday elephant pool party, and I think that's exactly what's going on, at least for the 4 of them. How cool. Oh, what a scene. And I'm quite tempted to pop in with them, I'll tell you that much. It's a very, very hot and sticky afternoon, and I could think of no better way to be spending it than wallowing about. I'd probably choose a cleaner pond than this. The elephants often leave their large bran muffin-like poops in their own waterholes. I can actually see a few piles of dung floating around as we speak, so they tend to not be as clean as you like. There we go, well done Sens. Sens is right on the money. There's a floater. And Scuba Steve, the hippo, who also spends a lot of time in this waterhole, will also do just the same thing. This is so great. These youngsters couldn't be having a better time, and it looks like the big ones aren't really bullying the youngsters too much. They sometimes can get a little bit carried away when playing with one another, no different to humans, I guess. Hello. Please spray us with water, it would be so nice and refreshing, and it doesn't happen often. Come on. Sometimes they do kind of flick a trunk full of water at you, just to make sure that they know you know who's boss. Come on. I think Tristan got squirted quite recently by an elephant. Now, I wonder if this isn't possibly actually a mother of one of these youngsters, and maybe that's why she stayed so close by to keep an eye on this, make sure it's safe. It could well be the case. It looks like one at the back there is trying to squeeze its way to the front. Was a little bit nervous, you could say. Wonderful. Well, I'm very glad that our decision to come to the treehouse waterhole has paid off, because that was absolutely magic, and it now means I can get back to my initial plan, which was to take you guys back to the area where we are hoping to be able to show you Tundi's tiny little, probably around 6-week-old cub. But before we head off, I would like to show you one of my favorite little birds that's just fluttered down to the water's edge. Senzo, it's just in and around these sticks, just in the front of the vehicle over here. It's just hopping around in and around those fallen branches there. There we go. Well done. Oh! Yeah. It's still there, just to the right a little bit more. There we go. Well done. Now, the tricky thing with birds, especially tiny birds, is they can disappear, just like this one has. But I'm hoping it's going to pop up into a spot where we can get a better view. It's called a blue waxbill. It's one of my favorite little birds. I love their coloration, and I also love their nesting habits. They are incredibly clever little birds and often build their intricate little nests close to vespid wasps, which are highly aggressive wasps, and that way they have their own security system to prevent any snakes or mongoose or anything like that coming in and stealing their eggs or chicks. Very good. Well, seeing as though the elephants have moved off, the blue waxbill has moved off, I think you too should also probably move on. That way I can try and get to Tundi's new den site as soon as possible and start scratching around for any sign of her there. So we're going to be sending you straight back up to the Masai Mara, jumping on board with Taylor.
Oh, Scotty D! How cool! One of my favorite things to see. Just in general, is elephants swimming and having a good time in the water. Very, very nice. Must admit, we don't actually see too many sightings like that out here in the Mara, just if you're lucky enough to catch them splashing around in the Mara River, or watching them cross the river is quite spectacular as well. Now, we are just bumbling about at the moment. Sure, there was some big rain earlier, like huge rain up on the escarpment, maybe about 3 or 4 different spots where it was showering, but luckily it's subsided, so we've changed our minds. We're actually going to head down this way. So our aim is to get towards the Sausage Tree Pride's territory, and hopefully we'll be able to see the Sausage Tree Pride, the small group, because I haven't seen them for a while. But we'll keep on heading in that direction. We've got a bit of a way to go. I'm going to send you back across to Ralph and see if he's staying nice and dry.
Yes, everyone, and look at this lovely little scene unfolding here. This is the cubs greeting Mom. She was calling them over with a little "arr, arr." Now, I don't know if you can hear them, but they're all calling, contact calls. Fantastic. So this male lion led us in the direction of the youngsters, and then he led us in the direction of 3 females, which you will get to see in a minute, because they're making their way across to them. And fantastic little scene unfolding here. And I'm wondering now which pride of lions this is. We're always going to be trying to work it out until I know exactly which and where. There's 3 females here. There's obviously 4 young cubs. I'm not sure. There can still be other females lying up in the area, but we are in the Olololo vicinity, and I will just in a minute show you the guide that they do have with the basic breakdown of the lion prides. But obviously lions don't read books, so they don't work exactly to that, but it is a nice little depiction. I'll show you in a minute once I've found it. And there's obviously this marsh breakaway pride that's also in the area. Jenny, I agree with you. How cute are these cubs? A lovely comment coming through there. They are very cute. They're not tiny cubs. They have grown a little bit, so the chances of these guys making it through to adulthood have already increased substantially if there are no nomadic males that take a chance or oust these males that are in the area. They should be doing just fine. It might be the sausage tree pride, it might be the olololo pride, or the marsh breakaway pride. Those are the three options that I'm thinking of. I think the Angama pride is another one as well. I think the Angama pride was the one that Taylor was sitting with the other evening and into the morning, and was part of the show. But I do, however, think that there's a lot more in that group. When I spoke to Manu, one of the camera ops, he said that's turning into quite a super pride. Rich, you're asking, is it true that lions don't purr? Well, I don't believe it is true, Rich, because I have heard them purring. It's a very loud purr. It's not quite the same as in your little kitty cats, but I am always, with all my answers, folks, I'm always down to correction. But I do believe that I have heard them purring, especially when they're youngsters and when they're around the mother. You do get that little bit of purring, but whether or not that noise that I'm hearing is a purr or not, I believe it is. So, but as I say, I stand corrected. I mostly tell you what I have read and what I have experienced over the years, and so it's not always written in stone. But I do try my best to give accurate information, and I'd just like Archie just to come in here a little bit, if you can, onto the book that I'm just showing you, and just to give you an impression of the prides of lions that are in the area. Now, in this area of where the sausage tree pride is, and the Mugoro, going over to the Olololo pride, I know in this area there's that marsh pride, breakaway marsh pride, also the Angama pride, and you can see where the blue is at the back. That's obviously the Mara River. So, and we've been frequenting just in that Olololo, sausage tree, Mugoro pride region. So they can move in all these areas, and that's obviously the information that I'm working off, plus what the other guides have been telling me and what I've been able to see on the recent Safari Live shows. So I'm doing my best, and please, if anybody else has got any information to pass on to me, please feel free and get involved in us identifying this little group. Right now, I'm going to get us a little bit closer to the action, because these lions are moving around a bit. So I'm just going to start up. It looks like there's a little bit of interaction with this male, with the female, so I don't want to miss that. We do have a couple of other vehicles with us, folks, so bear that in mind. We will try and keep the respect for these animals and obviously give them their space, but there are some other vehicles, so just be aware of that. I think that's a perfect spot for us to stop just there, as we have a lovely view. Now, Sinak asking the question, you're wondering how many cubs could be in one pride. Well, that all depends on how many females you have within the pride, Sinak, because one female, she'll generally have, now, and I'm generalizing, we always do that, we just try to make a generalization, she'll normally have between 2 and 3 cubs at a time, and you know, they're not generally synchronized at the exact same time with the other females, but there will be sometimes when they are quite close, especially when you've got a takeover of a group of males, and they'll try and mate with all the females around the same time. But as I say, so if you've got 3 females within a pride, you could then have, for instance, like this one, we've got 4 cubs here, which is quite a good number of, that's normally in the 3rd or 4th time when a female would give birth. She generally wouldn't give birth to 4 on her first go, or 3. It's normally 1 or 2 on her first go, and then later she would have the 3s, the 2s and 3s and the 4s. So just thinking of the mathematical numbers, we're talking, so if we have 3 females, it's quite unusual that we've got 4 cubs per female, so we'd go more on an average of 2 or 3, so that would be 3, 6, 9. We're talking at any one given time, out of 3 females, around 10 cubs, probably maximum, but then we can have a second group or a little bit of a later or older cubs coming through. So on 3 to 5 females, you're generally looking at it in the region of 10, 12 cubs at any given time, but it all depends on the dynamics. And look at this little youngster, it's trying to sneak up on these lapwings. Very playful. And that playfulness is always helpful in their later life when they need to use that skills gained through play for survival. And there's somebody else that's spotted these lions, but these crowned lapwings have got this little youngster's number, and they might even start dive bombing him, because he might be getting quite close to their nest, and that's what they're starting to do. They're starting to bomb him. This used to happen to us regularly when we were young, and we used to play rugby and soccer on the fields, because these lapwings make their nests on the lovely soccer field or rugby field. And when we were playing our sport, we used to often get dive bombed by these exact birds, and we also used to have fun chasing them, just like this little youngster was doing a minute ago. And also off to the background behind these lions, we've got a lot of animals watching these lions, and they've obviously just spotted this male lion. So we are going to be sitting here watching the interaction with these lions, and we're going to be sending you back to South Africa to see what they've been able to find, and I believe Scott is going to be the one to do that for you.
Welcome back to the Sabi Sands, and I'm sure you've been having a great time with Ralph. We've bumped into a bit of a traffic jam here. We were steadily making our way towards a female leopard who's been located not very far from where we are, and we bumped into this beautiful elephant bull, slowly feeding. He's just on the side of the road, so I don't want to drive past him just yet, because we'll probably bother him a little bit, and he's having a very pleasant afternoon snacking away. So we will just wait for him to finish that, and then we'll wee blessings, excuse me, just got attacked by a sneeze, ambushed. And like I said, we've got some wonderful prospects. Tundi, this female leopard, was located midway between her presumed new den site and an impala kill that she has, and she's been heading steadily towards the kill. So it looks like she is possibly going to be doing some feeding for us a little bit later on, and hopefully after that she will take us back to her little cub. Hi Claire, you'd like to know how well or if elephants can turn their heads and necks. Yes, they certainly can. They can also lift their heads up high. Often do that when they've detected us. But I mean, their range of movements I wouldn't say is as much as a cheetah or an owl. And even now you can see it gently turning its head side to side, but I think it's fair to say, and I guess I see where you're coming from while you ask this question, is that their necks and shoulders are so big and chunky that it doesn't appear like they would be able to turn their heads very much. But yes, they can. They're actually surprisingly nimble animals for their size. And I've often been astonished by the spots that I've seen them get to, especially on rocky outcrops, as well as often just finding their dung in some very hard to get to places. You would presume if you were the size of an elephant you wouldn't even think of going there, but they can kind of twinkle toe along. I can't wait for these guys to start feeding on the marula fruits. That's something we can look forward to in the coming weeks. Oh, is he going to shake this tree a little bit? What are your plans? Are you going to break some high branches off this marula tree? Yeah. I don't think this is a female marula. It doesn't seem to have any fruits on it, but we're going to let this Ellie be and slowly slink around the side of it and try and get you to this beautiful female leopard called Tundi as soon as possible. Oh, hang on. Are you going to break down this tree? Sure. I mean, look at how powerful this animal is. To be able to shake a tree with branches that thick is just the most incredible show of strength. Whew. What were you trying to do there, buddy? Were you trying to break down one of the branches, or are you going to go for it again? Imagine if we see it. Oh, I just want to move forward a little bit. He seems so caught up in himself that I don't think he's going to mind if we do move a little bit closer. Just want to be in a better spot if he does break down a branch. There we go. Now, what could be the case here, and I should have noticed this a little bit earlier on, is that he is actually appearing to be in a musth, which is a sexually heightened stage. You can see that fresh chunk of wood that's been gouged off the tree there. That was his first attempt. And this bull, like I say, is a sexually heightened stage called musth, and I only looked down between his legs a little bit later than I should have because of this interesting behavior that he's been displaying. And by him showing his strength and trying to break over branches, it's quite typical displays of being in musth. And if we look between his legs, you'll notice it's string like a broken tap, and that is the indicator, or one of the indicators, that he is in the sexually heightened stage. So in between his back legs are soaking wet, and there will be an extra amount of testosterone coursing through his veins during this stage of his life. And it's common for elephants to come into these musth periods for about a month or two every year, and what it means is basically they're just on kind of overdrive with regards to testosterone, and therefore tend to act more boisterous and a little bit more amorous with the ladies than they would when they are not in the sexually heightened stage. It's actually derived from a Hindi word, musth, which means mischievous, and that's obviously from when the Indian elephants become a little bit naughty during this stage. Fascinating. Well, he was just trying to show us how big and strong he is, practicing for displaying to some ladies, I guess. Very good. Yes, Richie is in a state of love, but at the moment he's only got himself to love, which is not ideal really, but hopefully he'll find some ladies, and that way he won't push over too many trees. Now, what's also interesting to note is that, yes, during the sexually heightened stage, certain elephants can be a little bit aggressive towards us as people, but he's shown no interest in us whatsoever. So, a good example that he's not very aggressive towards us and taken our presence completely calmly, no aggression shown. Very good. We're going to race along to Tundi, this female leopard, and while we get into position we'll be sending you back to Ralph and the lions.
Thanks, Scott. And going from one cat to another, we're still sitting with these youngsters here. Some of the females, well, two of the females have actually walked down into the drainage line, And it seems the mother of these has stayed up top, but they're very interested as to what's been going on down below there. There's been a little bit of warning calls and snorts from game down there, the odd little snort, so we don't know what's happening, and they're quite curious too. You know, it's quite interesting to think. I often think, you know, I've got two little boys of my own of 6 and 3 years old, and you know, the lessons that they learn, it's very difficult to tell them about lots of things that they need to learn about. Sometimes the experience needs to be had, and I refer mostly to dangerous things that need to happen. Obviously you don't want them to get hurt, but sometimes a little bit of pain and really assists in the learning process. And I mean this by, you know, for instance, if you tell somebody 1,000,000 times not to do something because they're going to get hurt, eventually they need to get hurt to realize why you were saying they shouldn't do it. And it goes the same a lot with little cubs and youngsters in nature, that, you know, they need to learn for themselves sometimes. Now, Monique, you're raising a very good point. Is it true that their vocal cords are set up to roar and not to purr? Well, Monique, maybe that is why I've heard youngsters purring. I can't recall hearing adults purring, but maybe their vocal cords change as they grow, and that would make sense, because maybe that purring is a good way for them when they are suckling with the mother, but then maybe it evolves into more for the roaring, because when they're young they can't roar either. If you've ever seen the youngsters, they do try and imitate, but it's very sad, the result, because they don't even get anywhere near. It's not like just a young roar. It's really, the sound is completely different, and I'm just putting 2 and 2 together, and that's a very good comment that you're making there, question, and that maybe their vocal cords actually evolve through development into the adult stage, and then they aren't able to purr. A very regal looking youngster, that. And still got the little bit of spotting down the legs, reminiscent of when they were born. They're very spotted from a young age, and then they lose that as they grow.